I don't know. You can go.
Do you have any bit of empathy for anything we said up here?
Yes.
Those inequalities.
Just one name, just one
Again, I
organization.
didn't come with a list, my dude.
Yikes, that's the PhD student too. Holy shit.
Thank you for tuning in for Middle Ground, which is all about
Okay, it's for the summer.
and having a dialogue.
That's right. Make sure you stick around to the end because we want to discuss more about the ethos of Middle Ground. But for now,
Wait, you're fishing? Are you at the beach?
You said that women are misguided. Okay. We are not misguided. We do not need you to shepherd us.
I'm gonna show you that fishing spot.
Okay, let's get hacks.
How's it going?
Oh, it's the incel guy. How does he keep getting invited back to these? Why don't I get invited to these?
You call yourself a feminist?
To what?
I would.
Yes.
Have you heard of Jubilee?
Yes, I have. Oh my gosh, wait, are you reacting to the incel dude on the...
Please don't call it
middle ground?
reacting, okay? I'm just watching and talking about it. Don't call it reacting. That triggers me.
Okay, you're not a reactant.
Thank you.
An intersectional
Special
feminist.
Listen, I'm really enjoying watching you react to this content.
Fuck you.
Marxism?
To me, feminism is fairness.
I think that it's unfortunately misguided.
Feminism is a flawed movement.
When you hear the phrase men's rights, what comes to mind?
Aggression.
Advocating for the human rights of man as a class.
I start laughing.
What do you hope to get in the conversation?
I would hope to get some insight and probably, if anything, agree on a lot more than disagreeing.
I actually hope to get a little bit more understanding of why some men think this way.
Do you think there's a middle ground between men's rights activists and feminism?
We'll see.
Hi, my name is Zach, and I am 24 years old.
This is Chris. I'm a PhD student at the University of Southern California, and I'm also a Title IX specialist who challenges discrimination against men on college campuses. And I'm 30 years old.
Hi, I'm Derek. I also go by Brendio. I'm a YouTuber, and I'm also known as an incel, which is an involuntarily celibate.
Hi, my name is Alicia. I am a writer, poet, and teaching artist.
Hi, I currently work in the pet health industry, and I'm 30.
I'm 24. I'm a graduate student with a degree in health sciences, and I'm excited to be here today.
Can I get my men's rights activists in the left and my feminists on the right? Step forward if this statement is true for you. I believe men and women are different but equal.
I know as a woman that I don't have the same physical strengths. Men and women are built differently. I think whenever things are built differently, it's for a reason, right? But at the same time, the amount of limits that have been put on women historically, like the fact that not too long ago we were just allowed to start voting. Even today, like the wage gap, just all types of stuff. Like women just don't have a lot of rights that are just, it should have nothing to do with what gender we are to be able to be paid equally or just be treated with respect. So, yeah.
I do believe that, of course, there are biological differences between men and women. And of course, there should also be legal equality. Of course, I disagree with the idea that women face systemic discrimination. You just mentioned the wage gap, which has been debunked so many times.
Okay, two quick things. Firstly, this is a big question. When people ask, is there a difference between men and women? Most reasonable people will acknowledge that there is, but people that are hardcore into these types of arguments aren't really talking about physical differences. Usually they're getting more at mental differences. Like, it's not really controversial to think that, like, men and women, like, the physiology of a male body versus a female body is different, but usually people will make much stronger claims. So, for instance, saying men are more competitive, or men are more interested in, like, science and math and stuff, and women are more interested in nurturing, that they have, like, the nurturing brain or whatever. I think that it would be good to, like, if you're having a discussion with somebody on that, like, you really need to iron out what they mean when they say there are differences between men and women. Like, what are you talking about mentally there is important to go into. Also, I hate doing like wage gap discussions. This is a million fucking times. So the idea that women are paid 80 cents on the dollar for what a man earns is not necessarily true when it comes to like working the same job in the same field. The wage gap just says that collectively, when you aggregate all of the earnings between men and women, that men tend to earn more than women do. Now, that is a fact. And the question is, why is that true? That could be true for good reasons. Maybe men and women do naturally gravitate towards different jobs, and that's just what people do, and that's cool. Maybe it's true for bullshit reasons, like maybe women are discriminated against when it comes to college application processes in certain fields, or discriminated earlier on, like in life, and it causes them to not try for different fields, right? So the wage gap is real. It exists. The question is, why does it exist? And it's not as simple as saying that women are just paid less for the same work that men do. It's more that like different people go into different types of work, or women and men go into different fields and whatnot. Yeah.
I've studied evolutionary biology quite a bit. And men and women are very different from not just a physical, the bone structure.
Evolutionary biology, anytime somebody says that they study either neuroscience or evolutionary biology, those are two fields that there is a lot of insanely fucking stupid things that people say, not necessarily academics in the field, but the conclusions that people run with from those fields. It's absolutely insane how far people will try to run with really basic observations that we can make about either of these things.
The neurological department as well as the chemical balances. And also, I don't believe that men and women are equal under the law either, or they should be, rather. Children are not equal under the law. And it's not because we hate children, it's because we love them and we want to protect them.
So if you believe we're not equal, then that you're inferring that one would be greater than the other.
Well, so let me
so that's
chime in with my perspective.
Yeah.
As far as not being equal, I don't think that necessarily means inferior or superior. When it comes to certain things like roles like childbearing, a woman is going to be far more productive and a lot more nurturing than, say, a man. And when it comes to doing a lot more of the heavy lifting and the work, a man...
Do you think that evolutionary biology is implicitly a bad study, or just results people perform? Okay, so there's something called, we've talked about this a number of times here, there's something called a just so story. And you have to be careful about getting wrapped up in these just so stories. So here's an example, right? Women have boobs, okay? Breasts are a secondary sexual characteristic that women tend to develop in puberty at varying sizes, and men tend to be sexually attracted towards these things, okay? Now, knowing that, we could spin a ton of just so stories. Women had to develop boobs, and it was important because it helped them attract men, and it's important because, blah, 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 blah. Well, that might not be the case at all, actually. It might just be because we share a lot of biological material. Maybe because of the way our breast tissue developed, maybe breasts just tended to respond to estrogen in different ways, and that's literally the only reason why women develop boobs. Maybe there was no naturally selective pressure for a breast to develop a secondary sexual. Like, it's possible. There could be a million different explanations for why something was selected for. Things can develop that weren't technically selected for. Not every evolutionary trait had to have a selective pressure applied to it. There are ways to tell when reading genes to see, like, is there a high chance that this was really selected for, or this is random chance, et cetera, et cetera. Like, you just have to be careful of like trying to figure out like, well, this is why this happened, when all you have is like a descriptive fact, like it's possible that I walk into a room and I see a guy that's laying on the floor dead, and I see that the walls are pink. Like, I could just say, well, this guy clearly killed himself because this room is hideous. That's a just so story. You take a few descriptive facts and you try to spin like a reason why they happened. You have to be really careful when you do that from an evolutionary point of view, because evolutionary anything is incredibly fucking complicated. Okay, sorry.
Man is probably going to be more suited for that role. And I don't think that makes them any better or worse. We are just built, created, and born different.
I would also like to elaborate. I am not saying that they are worse overall or better overall.
They complement each other.
Like he said, they do.
They complement each other beautifully.
They work very well together.
We
when
need
they
each other for
offspring.
I mean, that's part of the beauty of it, and I think trying to equalize them and make them the same and...
Don't use breasts. They have a defined biological function in female sex mammals. So I don't want to play too hard in semantics here, but when you say they have a defined function, nothing is given a defined function, okay? Evolution is random, okay? And selection just chooses for things that tend to survive more over other things. Not even survive, I'm sorry, but reproduce. It's entirely possible, for instance, that breasts could have, now I'm not saying this is 100% true, I'm saying this is possible. This is a story that we could weave. Breasts might have developed on accident. Just because we share similar biological material, men and women start off as the same in the womb, and then we differentiate later on in life, or we share a ton of material, basically. It's entirely possible that breasts just happen to develop, and then maybe later on in life, maybe some men became sexually attracted towards larger breasts, and those men tended to reproduce more because they could identify females better in a herd or whatever, something like that, right? So in that case, the sexual attraction to breasts might have come after the development of them. Or there's like a million other things like that could influence things. All I'm saying is that evolution is a very complicated and incredibly messy process. It's not this very finite thing like, oh, well, one day, the male mammal developed the penis in order to insert semen into the womb, blah, blah, blah. Like, things are not that clean.
Dude, we get it, Nomi.
Thank you.
Transition and all that, I don't believe is going to be the most conducive when it comes to raising children, but also just for overall well-being.
I want to note that you brought up children being unequal to adults. I just hope you weren't comparing women to children.
He was comparing women to children. He just got caught on it. That's a good catch.
I mean, it was technically a comparison of women and children.
I don't need you to protect me. I just need you not to harm me. I can protect myself. I'm very capable of doing what I need to do. Okay?
Okay, sure.
100%.
I am an incel, or an incel advocate, I suppose. I don't hate women at all. I think we're different, and they have aspects that are superior to men as well. It's just very contextual on the subject.
Toxic masculinity is real.
I think that toxic masculinity is definitely a real thing. It's kind of just the idea of what masculinity should be, but it goes wrong a lot of the times, saying that violence, sex, power...
Get this guy on, he's a YouTuber. I actually talked to him. He was at the Jesse Lee Peterson rally, the panels or whatever that I went to. He's the one, we actually found a thread that he posted before going on that, where he posted in that incel forum, and he's like, can you guys give me a bunch of links so that I can own the fuck out of Destiny when I go onto that panel? Do you remember we read that thread? Holy shit, it was cringe. And then when we got there, he didn't actually say anything to me. He avoided me the whole time. It was fucking hilarious.
Controlling person makes you a man.
I see it in very unfortunate places, like when the young men or boys in my family, even from toddler age, are told, you shouldn't be crying. Boys don't cry. And what that turns into, I see it when I'm in a bookstore and a guy who tries to get my number says, why y'all always gotta act like that? And he sincerely had this cracking voice, like he was hurt, but it was an entitlement. And that's toxic masculinity. It's saying you don't realize how your behavior is harmful.
What does toxic masculinity mean? Is it character traits? Is it upbringing?
The suppression of feeling. For a lot of men, because throughout childhood they're told man up. So because of that, there's a lot of repression. Repression then is usually channeled into anger for some people because they not always know how to express because they're told not to express.
If feminism went through a rebranding and they didn't call it patriarchy and they didn't call it feminism, the 99% of men's rights advocates would be on the side of feminists, because feminists typically advocate for a lot of similar things. So for instance, men's rights advocates will talk about how men commit suicide in higher numbers. Men are told not to talk about their feelings. Men have to go through all of the suppression in society. Feminism addresses all of those same things, but they call it toxic masculinity, which instantly turns off a lot of MRAs, men's rights advocates, because they think that you're saying all masculinity is bad. Look at the reaction to the Gillette commercial.
So upbringing and
that's part of it.
Okay,
yes.
But not something that's inherently part of men. Okay.
No.
I think that when you're showing your emotions, especially to random people, random women in some cases, they will view you as weak. I was raised by a single mother. I love her. She's my mom. I love her. But I could have used being told to act like a man. I think back, there were some cases where I was too emotional, and that negatively affected how I, what happened to me.
May I ask a question?
Sure.
What is your definition of weak as a man?
Not being as forward as you could be, not being as honest, or trying to be not as emotional as you don't need to be. You don't have to cry over a cut. I know, sometimes cuts hurt a lot, but sometimes it's necessary to be strong for the benefit of not just yourself, but for...
So being strong and being emotional have nothing to do with one another. There's nothing wrong with being emotional. The wrong part comes with how you respond to it. If there's a certain thing that makes you emotional, there's nothing wrong with that as long as your responses to it are fine. Like if something makes you emotional and you act in an improper way or in a suboptimal way, or you do some really fucked up shit, then yeah, that's not good. But just getting emotional over something is not necessarily bad.
Will you expand on that point? What do you mean react in a suboptimal or negative way to
So we have emotional responses to things. Okay, hold on, I'm trying to remember. So there's something called CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, that talks about this triangle. You have something will happen and it just makes you feel a certain way. And sometimes there's not much you can do to control that. Well, you can never control that directly, right? You could compare this to a mental flinch, kind of. It just happens. Then you have an emotional response to something, right? So how does it make you feel afterwards? And then you have an actual physical reaction. How do you actually respond to something? Just because something makes you feel a certain way when it happens, you can still choose how you respond to that issue. If somebody does something that upsets you, so for instance, let's say you're in traffic and somebody cuts you off and that upsets the fuck out of you. That's okay. You can get mad. That's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. Now, it's your choice how you choose to respond to that. You get upset, but you just carry on, you drive, you let him do his shit, and you whatever, then that's fine. It's okay that you get upset. There's nothing wrong with your emotions there. Or if say you get broken up with a girlfriend and you cry and it makes you feel sad and it actually upsets you. There's nothing wrong with that. That's totally fine. Now, if you wallow in self-pity and stay indoors for the next 2 weeks and you don't do anything and you let your life fall apart, that's not good, right? But just having an emotional response to something isn't intrinsically bad. It's the actual actions you take afterwards that can determine, whether or not your response is good or not.
People around you, It's fine to act emotional in certain cases, but I don't think it's fine to act that way with a woman. Maybe, you have a really good friend and he sees you cry, he's your best friend and you're crying about something really personal.
The idea, in my opinion, when you're a man and you obsess over not showing emotion to women, I think that it shows a fragility in your demeanor. And I'm not sure 100% if I feel this way, but I think that a lot of women can pick up on that. But a lot of women are also dumb as fuck, so it might work on the women as well. I don't know.
Did you say male fragility, Mike, from CCP?
Male fragility is a real thing, not in the way that Mike uses it. But there are guys. So I could use John Zerka as an example here. I love him to death, but when you're constantly I'm the best, I do this, I go verbal, I'm the blah 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 blah. I think that a perceptive person will pick up that it seems like you have a lot of esteem issues. If you constantly have to remind everybody how awesome and cool you are, there's a good chance that you don't actually feel that inside. That you have to remind everybody all the time, because if you don't, maybe you're worried that you'll lose it, or maybe you're worried that other people won't see it because you don't display it, naturally, because it's not something that people pick up on if you're not being super vocal about it. I don't think you have to constantly act it makes it seem like you have a very fragile characteristic when you have to act that way. I think it's not good. It doesn't sell confidence to be arrogant.
I think that's fine.
I feel like you're conflating two different situations, because you started off with saying a random person or even women. So it feels like, okay, this is a woman that you don't have a bond with or any type of relationship with. And then you mentioned...
Aren't the feminists arguing it's okay to express your emotions? From the way it sounds, it seems like you're saying people should attempt to repress their emotions and act rationally. No, I don't think you should repress your emotions. I just think you should respond in appropriate manners, right? Having emotions is fine. How you respond to situations is what defines you, not the situations that occur to you and an emotional response you might have. I have present. Oh boy, hold on. Let me catch this monster of a fish. What?
Or in front of your best friend. That's okay to cry. Well, that woman could be your
You're not even
best
holding
friend.
it right now.
That,
Take it.
Oh,
There you go.
magnet ring. Wow, cool. How is a constant need to reaffirm your coolness / also social value contained to males when you say male fragility? Isn't it just fragility in general? I mean, I say male fragility because it's specific here to masculine identities, the types of things I'm talking about, like the being arrogant or whatever. These are like being super confident and super dominating in public is typically seen as a masculine trait. But women can be fragile about their femininity too or whatever. But here comes some big red pill shit. In society today, women aren't really expected to contribute much in terms of strong personalities. They're just kind of expected to shut the fuck up and chill and sit back. So women don't have to be as bombastic with their personalities as men are expected to, right? Like typically in society, we still see men as usually the aggressors or the pursuers. So I'm selling all the fish I caught, okay? When there are still very strong gender roles in the dating, do you really blame men for being traditionally masculine if it works? Okay, here's an important thing about like analyzing structures, okay? It's not about assigning blame. I don't care about like who's at fault or is it wrong to do this or whatever. We're just making descriptive analyses of how things work. Men tend to act a certain way, women tend to act a certain way. Like typically within a system, everybody usually is incentivized to act in a given way, of course, right? Like women dress a certain way, men act a certain way, like people like have certain behaviors. Yeah, of course they work. That's how the system is structured. But to criticize an entire system, you can't let the system justify itself because every system is self-justifying, right? Like there's a reason why within our criminal justice system, black people get fucked.
Wow, 19 months. Let's do a 19x wow we combo in 5.
Hold on.
4, 3, 2, 1. Wow.
And all the people that act within that system do it in ways that make sense. Destiny, you're clearly not only making descriptive claims, you obviously think people should act a certain way. Well, yeah, I mean, like, I have my own personal prescriptive claims, but, like, I don't fault anybody in a system for acting a certain way because it does make sense in a system. Like, guys should be, like, super arrogant and outward or whatever because that does get you results sometimes, sure. Personally, I don't think you should, because I don't think it leads to like actual like self-fulfillment or happiness. And I think the types of relationships you get doing that kind of stuff are not very fulfilling. But like within the system that we have right now, I mean, it kind of makes sense, right? Guys typically go after or fuck girls because the way to demonstrate that you have value in society is to show how many girls like you, because a lot of guys like literally their worth or their value is literally tied into approval from women. So I mean, like if that's the way that your mind functions and that's the way that you draw value from yourself, then all the behaviors make sense. But I mean, like I would advocate for like a new paradigm or a different paradigm through which to view that kind of stuff. But like I don't fault any individual like player in a system. It's 150, by the way. You better not be outside. Wow. Do you think happiness is different than purpose? I don't know. It's semantics. I mean, I think having purpose in life can probably like give you happiness, but
like so.
I don't think you
and
be friends
again,
with a woman, so.
I don't think you'd be friends with
because
a woman.
you don't
Nice.
see us as equal, as you said before.
I don't think showing emotions is a sign of weakness. I actually think it's a sign of strength. Men do live shorter lives, and that's because of a repression of emotions, and that's due to many things that patriarchy has instilled.
Repression of emotions.
It has been shown that a person's well-being, their lifespan is shortened when they are not able to express their emotions. In addition, when they don't have physical touch or when they don't have a partner to keep them company. We are human beings here. We need to talk to each other. And if you think that our health isn't affected when you're not able to express that you are sad or upset, you're wrong. I think that men's rights activists are only men's rights activists.
Is this true? I'm uncomfortable saying it's true because I haven't looked at the studies, but I've heard this repeated time and time again. That like as humans, like a big predictor for how long we live is things like how many relationships you have, and that people will die without like physical touch or family. That I think like an ape, I think when given the choice between like a wireframe like parent with food versus like a nice snuggly parent with no food, like if you make dolls or whatever, they'll always choose the thing that closer resembles like the contact that they need, even if it means starving. So like I think that like that amount of socialization is really important.
How is that compared to the human experience though? They literally starve to death versus humans. We don't starve ourselves because we don't have a family.
I don't know if that's true or not. From a very
I'm
now
morbidly obese
no.
and I have 9.
By the time we reach, like, we've already been conditioned a lot. These are like newborns.
Oh, so babies might die.
Yeah.
But does it have any effect on adults? Like, do people die faster because they're like sad and don't have family to relate to and shit?
Well, it's a cop-out answer, but like, yeah, if you commit suicide, you do. Older men commit suicide more likely than younger people. I think it's like the 40 to 60 age bracket or whatever is like way more likely to commit suicide than even teenagers for older men.
So it has to be something forced. It's not like something in your body works less good. It's like you kill yourself or starve yourself. Someone said old people starve themselves.
Yeah, maybe.
So
I'm
it's
not
a conscious
100%
effort
sure.
for you.
By becoming a male feminist, aren't you fucking yourself over as a man? If the current system heavily rewards being traditionally masculine, then becoming a male feminist only makes your life harder. Is it really reasonable to ask people to do this? I don't think so. I don't think becoming a male feminist makes your life harder. I think that the problem is that like, how to do this? I think that you can have traits that all sorts of people like, women included, and they don't have to be like the traditional ones. Like there are going to be some women that are like super into that, but not every single person is like that. I think that men and women assume like really weird things about each other's personalities sometimes that don't really line up with reality well. So for instance, like a lot of men assume that every woman wants like a 6 foot tall, like super masculine muscular Chad that like, like plays sports, blah, blah, blah all day. But that's like pretty far removed from what the average woman like typically wants. And then a lot of women assume that like men can see things like the redness in like the corners of their nose or like the size of their ears or like a lot of like really weird particular things that men don't really look at or care about. I think that both sides tend to like see flaws in themselves or perceive flaws in themselves, and then they project that hardcore to the other side. They assume that the other side like can definitely see that as well and super judges it. But while statistically there are certain trends, women in general do want tall men with broad shoulders. Do you not believe so? I don't think that these are deal breakers for most people. No, I don't think that like, I think that there are some women that might prefer these things, but like these are things that are on like a big checklist of other things. Like there are a lot of, I guess, so like for instance, to speak to shorter guys, right? Like a lot of guys think that like if you're like 5'8", you're like never gonna get laid in your entire life, because if you're not at least like 6'1" or whatever, like a girl's never gonna look at you. Like, I mean, there are gonna be some girls out there that are like only date like really tall guys, but that's like a really small minority of girls. And then there might be like a wider range of women that are like, yeah, I would prefer this thing, but it's not like a deal breaker. It's not like if a guy doesn't have this thing, there's zero chance that it'll ever work out,
5'8" is tall.
Thanks,
I feel like physical attributes are like the icebreaker for women, but once you can get past that, then they can start to mean a lot less when it comes to the majority of women.
Yeah. I think those things give you a huge advantage, though. Like, if you don't normally meet women in your normal life, it's much rarer that they will talk to you if you're not classically attractive. I mean, like, being attractive can help, but I think that people tend to overvalue it quite a bit. And I know a lot of people, especially now that I've gotten through, like, that I've met so many more people streaming, like, I know a lot of people that check a lot of conventionally attractive boxes that have horrible fucking self-esteem. It is unbelievable to me. Like, I know girls that are that I know that people in chat have said are 8s and above that think that they're fucking hideous. Like, there are like tons of people, and then guys that are like super, like, I would say like, man, you're really attractive, that are like, man, I don't know, dude, like my hairline is fucked, and like I feel like my blah 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 or whatever, like just random shit. It's like, dude, like you're fine, like chill.
As a response to women expressing that they want more equality, I don't think they.
Then what are some things that are attractive to a wider set of people other than being funny? Because you use that as an example usually. I think that being funny or being confident, I think are like two, like I think that there are things that you can do. I think that when I say like being funny, I don't mean like you have to have like 27 jokes that you can tell, but like being able to get along with a person and have like a conversation where you're genuinely interested in the person and you give good feedback on what they say. I think that those types of things go a really, really, really long way. Way farther than just having broad shoulders. Like, I don't know. Like I said, like before I got to the internet, like I never realized how much men obsessed over these things. Like I don't think like, and I was a super small dude in high school. I weighed 105 pounds. And I never had these ideas like, man, I'm so fucked in life because I'm not, like I'm not huge. Like, I don't know. I've never thought that before. And I didn't realize until I got to the internet how insecure so many guys were about like physical traits that like, I guess are deal breakers for some people, but they're nowhere near as big a deal as like a lot of guys make them out to be. Obviously, that at the extremes, this changes, right? So if you're a guy that's like 4'11", or if you're a guy that's like 5'2", then yeah, you're gonna start to run into more problems, of course. But
you made it work.
Thanks. Saying personality is most important sounds like a trope, but it's really the thing that matters most. Well, yeah, well, I mean, but like, yeah, I mean, personality means more than just like being funny, I guess, as some people would say. Also, a lot of girls don't even know a lot of this shit too. One of the funniest examples that I give is like if you talk to like, and I swear to God, this is true. Ask friends that are girls or whatever. If you ask a friend that's a girl that's been with a guy and she thinks that that guy was like good in bed, if you ask them like, oh, like did you like his dick or whatever? Like, yeah, how long was it? Oh, I don't know. I think it was pretty long. It was like 9 inches long. A lot of girls will say stupid shit like that where they have no fucking idea, you know, like how tall a guy is or like how big his dick was or whatever. Like people don't even remember these things like 100% specifically. Like girls say a lot of like dumb shit like that. I don't know. I've never known somebody that's like hyper focused on like one specific thing, and then when that thing has been fixed, they all of a sudden feel really good about themselves. I've never known somebody like that. I have known multiple people that have like gotten like plastic surgery and stuff, and it's never like, man, I'm so glad. Fuck, I don't want to shit talk all cosmetic surgery because that's not fair. But I've known people that have gone through stuff like that who like it's not like they did that and now they're good. They still have a lot of insecurities about the way they look, and now it's just like, what's the next thing I can fix, you know? And you never get to a point where you're like, that's like a thing that has to come from within. Like it's not going to be like you look a certain way physically and now all of a sudden everything is good and you've got confidence or self-esteem. I mean, I'm sure it probably has happened before. There's like a really egregious thing or something, but like generally that doesn't seem to be how it works. Explain why a 5 out of 10 girl on Tinder can have like 100 to 1 matches over a 5-10 guy on Tinder though. Probably because like men, like the difference, there's like, hold on, I'm trying not to get too squad W of this. We've talked about this before. This is an opinion I have. This is not scientific fact. I believe that men have different standards for fucking and dating. Men will fuck a lot of women that they would never consider dating. And the standards that men apply to women that they date are far different than the standards they apply to women they would fuck. I believe that in general, women generally will fuck guys that they would only consider dating. And I think this is like, it kind of explains like one of the big mismatches for why men are willing to fuck so much and women not as much. That like a guy will see a girl who's like even moderately attractive and the guy's like, yeah, fuck, hell yeah, I'd fuck that chick. And girls generally would only fuck guys that they would usually consider dating. This is like a pretty general and pretty broad, and it's not always going to be true, but I think that that's like generally true. That's why like a guy can have like friends that are girls, and if you ask the guy like, would you fuck any of those girls? The guy's like, yeah, I'd fuck almost all of my friends that are girls. Whereas if you ask girls, would you fuck like the friends that you have that are guys? It's like, well, I'm not even trying to date that guy. Like, why would I fuck a guy that's just a friend? Like, that's really weird. I think that generally these statements are true.
They focus on actual men's rights issues, and rather it's just an attack on women and feminism.
Destiny, this isn't true. The one article that calculated all the disparities between women and men matches on Tinder was done very poorly, and it's pseudoscience. No, I would actually bet my life and the life of everyone I know that is 100% true. Women get matches far easier on Tinder than men do. Any woman will get way more matches. That is just absolutely true. Like 100%. Isn't that because having a baby typically is a much bigger deal for women? I don't believe that women choose like sexual partners because they have some subconscious drive to like always have a child. I think that that gets into like some weird like evo biology shit that I don't think that has as much of an influence as we like to pretend it does on people.
Hey, so I asked this I talked about this in chat before. Do you think that physical appearance should be a protected class?
Honestly, maybe.
Because I mean, there've been like so many studies that show that like attractiveness will determine your career success.
For sure. No, for sure.
Prospects, mental health, all that.
Yeah, it's something that I've noticed. I'm trying. You don't know how hard it is being with Melina, who's like pretty attractive, to not get so black-pilled. Fuck, she's not here, is she? Like, it's pretty insane, like, how different your life is when you start to move up, especially as a woman on that attractive scale. Like, holy shit. You get so many offers, so many opportunities, so many people reaching out to you to offer you shit. It is unbelievable, like, how much you get. And this probably extends to even, like, just moderately attractive women. Like, it's interesting to think about, like, if you're a moderately attractive woman, you actually have, like, an escape button at all points in your life. If you ever, like, fuck this, I'm done with this shit, I'm cashing out, I'm just gonna go find a guy to marry and take care of me, you actually like always have that option available to you, which is pretty crazy. Yeah, I do think that like the level of attractiveness you have, especially as a woman, can have like hardcore determinings on the outcome of your life for sure. Squad up, boys. We're squad Wing in here, yeah.
I mean, it's not just about women, though.
Yeah, no, really attractive men can have an easier time.
Attractive men have, distinct advantages over less attractive men, too, in society. It's
What isn't there like if you go like on the Fortune 500 list, aren't like most CEOs like average like 6 foot or 6'1" or something? It's like multiple inches.
Yeah,
over,
there are like studies where you'll look at CEOs too, and they'll do like blind rankings of them. They won't tell you what their profession is, and they'll just get like a random pool of people, and invariably they'll rank like relatively high in terms of attract. It's because there's some selection there, right? I don't know.
Yeah, it's hard to tell if it's coming before or after or where it's happening, though.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So in the U.S. population, about 14.5% of all men are 6 feet over. Among CEOs, the CEOs of Fortune 500 companies, that number is 58%. 3.9% of men are 6'2" and taller. 30% of CEOs are 6'2" and taller. Yeah. But it's hard to say, like, does being taller, like, make them better? Or are they are there other traits go along with it? Does being taller mean that other people give them preferential
like,
treatment? Or
the fact that they're attractive gave them more confidence to pursue whatever career they wanted to. And,
that height could be a proxy for something else. Yeah. Like, it could be that, like, maybe the most important trait is actually just confidence. But being taller gave them more confidence because it wasn't something they worked at for growing up. Yeah, it's possible. Yeah. Or maybe people that are taller have bigger heads, so they have bigger brains, and they actually are better.
What does that say about you, my dude?
Well, I have a huge head, and everybody says it, so even though I'm shorter, it's fine. You have Napoleon syndrome? I know nobody believes it, but I legitimately don't think about my height that much. I don't consider myself to be a very short person. Like, 5'8", I think, is 2 inches below the U.S. standard, but it's just not something I think about a lot. I don't know. I've never thought, like, God, I'm so short. Like, fuck my life. Like, I don't know. I think if you're 5'8" and you think that, like, height is the main thing holding you back, there's probably a lot of other things that are fucking you over.
5'8" isn't short. I think that if you're over 5'5", you're pretty tall. To be fair, I'm 5'2". So I apologize to people that I triggered with that.
Damn.
That's why there are those differences.
Women in like the most important parts of society.
I guess they're technically not illegal according to the internet.
Positions that men simply aren't getting hired at anymore because of the fact that they're a man. And it's not just in the workforce. It's also, I would say, it's a lot easier for a woman to find a relationship, even if she, says it's finding the right guy is so hard. It really isn't. But sometimes for a lot of guys, finding a girl at all is hard.
If I have to consider what I wear before stepping out the house, because I don't want to draw some type of attention, I don't know how many other men have to consider, is this outfit going to be deemed safe for me? Any situations I have experienced where I physically felt endangered simply because I don't want to give my number out. It's part of that entitlement for men. You're not entitled a conversation with me. You're not entitled to my number.
That aside, it's like, are you going to make one example of the entitlement of men when it comes to asking for your number be the all-encompassing thing that all men have a problem when it comes to approaching women?
Well, firstly, it's not just an example. It's not necessarily all men. I don't dislike men. I love sports, I play video games. I have bros, I hang out with dudes. We just want men to realize that if you have friends that are having locker room talk, as a man, as an ally, please say something to your friends.
Do you think repressing that is really the solution here, though? If it's in a healthy male space...
I don't think that's healthy. I think it's toxic in itself.
I mean, if you're making jokes and you're doing all of that...
Jokes that are harmful jokes are not healthy because they just lead to people normalizing things. People always say, oh, it's just a joke, but when someone else hears it, they don't realize how that resonates and again, how that turns into violence. Like, this is not an isolated situation. I'm only thinking of 3 off the top of my head because if I think of too many, I'm gonna spiral
So
right now.
what's the alternative? Men shouldn't talk about these things.
No, I think men can have a healthy dialogue. I don't think men have to be toxic in order to have a conversation. I know plenty of men that are able to have conversations about healthy, productive things, just like women are.
Well, it's not obviously something that I have personal experience with, but only 1% of all people on the death row are women in this country. So when women and men commit identical crimes, women are much more likely to, for example, escape the death penalty. And that's just plain sex-based discrimination.
That I agree on.
That's true. Look, I'm thinking about basic needs, like around the globe, the women who don't even have like proper like sanitary like products.
I mean, I have to agree. Just small things, like a tax on a box of tampons. Do you think I choose to do this monthly? No, trust me. So why should I have to pay taxes when this is a medical necessity?
We're just like dismissed. A lot of our symptoms, a lot of the things we report, especially women of color, but women across the board, are just treated a lot less equally.
I'd say that I'm an advocate for what I believe the role that men play in society. I believe that their views should be expressed openly, that they should be given a platform to do so. And
that's actually true. Women and black people, when they go to the doctor, if they report symptoms about like pain or whatever, doctors are less likely to prescribe pain medication to them than they would for like white men. There's a lot of like weird medical biases like that.
And I believed in men unapologetically and unashamedly being men as we were created.
I think in my heart that there are things that men are entitled to. I am all about human rights, and I do consider the rights of every human, but every time I hear of a men's rights activist, I hear anger and I hear very illogical reasoning, and it just boils my blood because it's a setback for all of us.
I feel that the other side does not understand my values.
I think a lot of times when a movement is created, the other side thinks that they're being attacked or think that it's some like attempt at erasure. That's not what feminism is about at all. What do you need a whole men's rights activism movement for? I'm sincerely confused.
Well, I mean, like, I will advocate for positive masculinity and what men should represent and healthy outlets for men. Like, I still think the Boy Scouts should be exclusively the Boy Scouts, for example, one of those things. Where I would like to think that we could get some common ground is when it comes to the clear biases that are in the court system, especially in the marriage and family court system, right? And right there is what I would advocate for when it comes to men's rights.
The things that stand valid, like that I'm hearing from y'all that are like valid to me, come from a place of like, I'm treated like unfairly by the system, versus a lot of the things women are saying. It's also America and the system as well, but a lot of it is like harm from men.
How and where?
How and where what?
Where's this harm from men coming from?
Oh, no.
Okay. It started when I was young. I'm not going to talk too long. I was 16, got a bottle thrown at me because I told a boy no. It started when I was in a club. A boy touched me. I said no. He kept touching me. It got to the point he got violent. It gets to the point that the only reason why a man decided to stop touching me in the bookstore I talked about earlier.
Oh, wait, this is dumb. I don't know why she's bringing up anecdotes. I'm pretty sure it's pretty well documented that men are more violent, more of a threat to women than they are to women. I mean, I can tell you that. I've never been afraid of getting killed or raped like hooking up with a woman. But with men, it's a lot more fucking scary.
Earlier is because he realized my husband was not too far away. And he said, sorry, bro. Never said sorry to me. That's why. And that's off the top of my head. This is why I get upset, because I'm like, I'm here to talk about like how you feel. But when you just dismiss the fact that women actually have experiences, that's when it seems like it's about more than your rights. It seems like it's about your ego. And that's where I get pissed off. Because how dare you tell another human being that their experiences, what they're telling you right in front of your face, is not valid.
I didn't say they were invalid. I said how and why. I'm trying to understand.
How and why? Because it happened. It happened many times. It happened yesterday. It happened the day before.
Okay, I think some of the things that you guys are touching on, such as the court system and gender roles, are a subject of patriarchy, and that's part of what women are trying to dismantle, is those traditional gender roles.
Are there any feminist organizations that have done anything, for example, to challenge bias against men and fathers in the family court system?
Absolutely.
Can you please give me like a list of feminist advocacy organizations that have engaged in any meaningful advocacy to address those issues, because there are actually none.
Okay. I know that you came with your little research or whatever. I didn't come with a list of like feminist organizations, but I know actively that there are women's organizations that are trying to dismantle those inequalities.
Just one name, just one
Again, I
organization.
didn't come with a list, my dude.
Yikes, that's the PhD student too. Holy shit.
There are no such organizations.
Again,
In what ways are men's rights at risk?
I think there has been significant progress over the last decade or so, especially in the legal field, but I think there are still significant disparities that need to be addressed, such as poor health conditions, bias against men in the criminal justice system, bias against men in family courts, and bias against men in the educational system, especially in colleges.
Men and women should be allies.
men, unfortunately, many of them don't want to even have this open dialogue that we're sharing right now. We need men to help be allies, to help speak to other men.
It strikes me like the way you phrase this, you almost want men to say certain things that you want them to say, as opposed to maybe actually listening to what they're saying.
What certain things would I want to hear?
Just kind of like men being allies, men talking to other men, etc. I'm completely okay with that, but I'm not going to repeat like feminist talking points to other men.
We all believe different things. We may be under the label of men's rights activists, but for example, I'm probably the most traditionalist person here. I think we should be allies, but maybe us being allies in a patriarchy wouldn't be so bad. You know, us going back to the past wouldn't be so bad. It would probably be a lot happier if we were, you know, getting married and staying married and having kids and, you know, going to church and all that, la-di-da-di-da.
While speaking to the three of you, I feel like you're each coming from different perspectives. So it's hard to, you know, again, just like our perspectives, it's hard to generalize. So to me, I feel like there are certain things that, even though we're not fully agreeing on it, things may get lost in translation, our verbiage may not be 100% correct, that we could at least agree on.
Can I ask one question? What would you envision would be the ideal man with the end goal of feminism as far as educating men or working to dismantle whatever patriarchy is? Like, what does that man look like?
It starts with childhood. We have to teach children as well as girls, because we're also taught, because of toxic masculinity, what a man should be as well.
I think that we just need to hold men accountable. In order to kind of make progress, we need help from people that will listen. Because let's be real, when we express our concerns, a lot of men refuse to listen, but they would be more likely to listen to another man.
Do you also feel like you have an ethical obligation to challenge other women or other feminists when, for example, they deny that men face discrimination?
When it comes
I don't like the idea. Hold on one second. I don't like the idea that, like, the counter to these two sides is not necessarily fair. Like, when women say, like, one of the things that sucks about, like, toxic masculinity is that I feel like anytime I see a guy, there's a decent chance that I can get raped or murdered. Like, that's something that you have to live with every single day. And then when a guy counters is like, well, in family courts, you know, we get less preferential treatments from judges. Like, okay, well, how many men does this actually impact? Not to say that that should be downplayed or that that's not a significant problem. But, like, one of these things is, like, the lived experience of most women in society at pretty much every single stage of their life. And then the other is, like, well, if you go to court for a particular thing, like, you might get a less favorable ruling or whatever, statistically speaking. Like, I don't know.
Things like, oh, men can't
a birthday
be
today.
Abused. I've had this conversation with another woman, and it's the idea that just because a man may be physically stronger than us, does that mean they cannot be abused? And because
there's a potluck tomorrow.
Because of that,
5 minutes left.
Again, fairness. Women need to be held accountable as well. I want to understand their viewpoint. As a woman, and
did you give up on lifting and getting jacked, or is that still the plan?
How it feels to be disenfranchised. So I want to understand why they feel the need to have a men's rights movement.
What does this go to?
I feel
it goes to Maru. She is.
I don't think there's ever a time in my life where
In
a
her
person
rumor
says
house.
they're hurting and
how it feels to be disenfranchised.
Oh, gosh.
So I want to understand why they feel the need
She's the
to
purple-haired
have
one,
a
right?
men's rights movement.
She has, purple hair.
I don't think there's ever a time in my life where a person says they're hurting and I don't at least try to listen or understand. My only thing is that I want the same in return. So when I'm genuinely saying I'm hurting or I've been through something, and it's not just a personal experience, because I actively do this work and surround myself with women saying I've been hurt by a man before. I get that you have stories, but I mean, that's actually my question. I haven't heard y'all stories. Like, I've sat up here and said I have 3 on the top of my head. I have about 30 plus probably. And I haven't heard y'all say, this is what happened to me.
I don't think that I'll ever invalidate a woman's feelings when she says, hey, I've been abused or whatnot.
Wait, is that Mara?
I don't think any of us here are rightfully saying that. But I think what's
Penny.
dangerous is when emotional testimony that may not always be what it is gets, creates bias, right?
Okay, I feel empathy for women being lost, being misguided. Look, I don't know. You can go.
Do you have any bit of empathy for anything we said up here?
Yes, I really do feel empathy for
Why was that so hard to say? Like, for the stuff that we said, do you have any bit of empathy for the stories I said up here?
Yeah,
I just want to know.
I do.
Like, I'm not even trying to be hostile. I just genuinely want to know.
Yeah, I just think that like a lot of the problems that have happened in your life are because society is not patriarchal. It's not traditional. It's we're gone. We're lost. We're in a fallen state, right?
There is a change of guard, not necessarily a change of guard, but things are evolving. Things are changing, and I feel like a lot of men speak from a viewpoint almost of fear. A lot of men are having a hard time grasping that and feeling comfortable with it.
I do feel empathy for your personal experience, but I cannot sympathize with your ideological position, because that ideological position is built on a fallacy, and that fallacy is actually that's causing very real consequences for men as a class in this country. So I understand that you are here with us as kind of the good feminist, so to speak, that you feel empathy for men, and I believe you, but I do not believe your movement, and I do not believe your ideology.
All right, we'll leave it at that. That's a wrap, guys.
I'm sweaty.
Okay.
You are very articulate.
Oh, thank you.
So are you.
Yes, so are you.
Stories.
Thanks for your time.
Okay. Wow, that was interesting.
John, what do you think it means to disagree thoughtfully?
I think when you disagree, it's important to acknowledge the other side's opinion and to kind of respect that opinion and to know that maybe you can't change it. And I think we've had a lot of middle grounds where people stick to their sides, but they at least acknowledge and try their best to understand where the other person is coming from. And sometimes I think that's the best we can ask for.
Well, we want to hear from y'all too. Let us know about something that you may have agreed with or disagreed with. We want to see the same type of meaningful dialogue in the comments below. We'll be looking out for those. As always, make sure you leave a comment, like, subscribe, and we'll see you guys next time.
Nice. Okay. Wow, good job, guys. Y'all feel enlightened?
Okay, this is video. Okay? This is all 3 members. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And this is their IQ, okay? This is the axe of IQ, okay?
I'm interested in that. Does he only play man?
That was the men in this video. Bam, the first guy, Derek, then the other guy, right? And on the opposite side, you have like this, dude. Like, so dude, it's unfair, man. They get fucking rolled. They get rolled. Like, dude, this guy is just rolling them without even trying. He didn't even have to bring like data. He just say, okay, name me one thing. And oh, I don't have a list, my dude. That's not enough, dude. You lose there. It makes them look, even though, let's say she had data, she would have won. Well, she didn't, and that makes him look bad, right? Does that make sense? It makes them look bad because even though they could have won, now they definitely can't because they brought dumbass. They did it on purpose, I think. I don't think.
He's not technically wrong. It does look bad. But I mean, I think that's a debate tactic. I don't know. I'm pretty clear when I talk to people that I'll never do that to somebody. I'm never going to ask you on the spot, like, yo, cite your source for this blah, blah, blah claim or whatever. Like, I typically don't. Unless it's something, like, highly contentious, in which case I'll say, like, okay, well, let's both spend, like, 5 minutes and let's see if we can find what you're saying or whatever. Like, if it's something they say that I, like, I think is super wrong, but... It's hard when very few feminists own toxic femininity. The one side's issue breeds the feeling of defensiveness that she was rightly. Dude, I'm getting a fucking stroke reading your sentence. This one side's issue breeds the feeling of defensiveness that she was rightly were talking about. I don't know what the fuck you're trying to say. I think there's an idea in there. Reformat and I'll try to read it again. Okay? Holy shit. I think I don't have respect for almost any streamer already, so I don't have to already lose it. What were any of my takes that bad? Damn, dude. Fuck that channel. They always bring the absolute worst advocates. I mean, it doesn't seem like they're super well versed on anything they're talking about. So like, but in another case, maybe that's part of the appeal of it. They like to bring like average-ish people, or like a variety of people in to show that like normal people can have these conversations. Isn't that kind of the goal of that channel? Normally they bring average Joes for both sides, but this time the MRAs were literally debate bros. Yeah, a little bit. Feminists could like rebrand themselves to like egalitarianism or some shit, and I think more men would be on board with it, so they just don't feel so fucking attacked immediately. Probably be a good thing to do. No, you don't have to apologize. Don't apologize to me. I don't care. I understand your position. Don't feel bad. No, this isn't a pity party for you, Raj, okay?